सततं कीर्तयन्तो मां यतन्तश्च दृढव्रताः नमस्यन्तश्च मां भक्त्या नित्ययुक्ता उपासते.
Satatam kirtayanto mam, always glorifying me, singing my praises. Yatantaha, striving. Dridhavrataha, of firm resolve. Namasyantaha, bowing to me with devotion. Nitya yuktaha, ever steadfast. Mam upasate, they worship me. Who does all this? Mahatmas, the people he was speaking of in verse 13 yesterday. So, in verse 13, he gives a suggestion of meditation. So, the assumption is that you've tried meditation and you find that it doesn't work. So, you come back to the preparation. What is the preparation? Here in verse 14, he deals with Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. And in the next verse 15, he deals with Jnana Yoga. These three yogas are the pathways to reduce your desires and get your mind calm, get your mind focused. Your mind is then available for the practice of meditation. So when you do meditation and you find it doesn't work, you have to come back to this, what Krishna elsewhere in the Gita calls it, Abhyasa Yoga. Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga. So, what is Karma Yoga? Yatantaha, he says. Karma Yoga is not just sitting there and performing rituals. It's not doing mechanical good actions. It is when a person is awakened to the concept of something beyond the world and has understood the futility of the world, he fixes self-realization as the goal. And that's what he's working for. But he understands he needs to get rid of his desires. So he acts in the world, he works in a spirit of yajna. This is a fabulous concept. Yajna means a higher ideal, one that is beyond your selfish, self-centered interests. And you work setting aside your ego and egocentric desires. You have desires, you have ego, but temporarily you set it aside because you're so inspired to work for the higher. And you do whatever you're doing detachedly without depending on the fruit of the action because you're not interested in anything in the world. You're only interested in getting beyond the world. The essential thing that you need to understand is not only do you grow spiritually when you perform Karma Yoga, but the byproduct of Karma Yoga is immense prosperity. Prosperity the likes of which you never imagined. And happiness. As long as you're selfish, these two don't come to you. When you are selfish, you're chasing prosperity all the time, it never comes to you. You're chasing happiness all the time, you never get happiness. The moment you turn your back on selfish activities and decide to work for something higher, both these come as a byproduct, and your main goal of moving towards self-realization is met with. So it's a win-win situation, Karma Yoga. Then comes Bhakti Yoga, Satatam Kirtayantaha. What is this always glorifying? So it doesn't mean sitting and singing bhajans all the time. What it means is, first of all, there is this yearning for reunion, like a lover yearning for the beloved. So there is this restlessness to find reunion with God, which you find in Mirabai's bhajans, you find in Surdas's compositions, you find in any bhakta. And then comes surrender. What do we mean by surrender? And this can best be understood through the words of bhaktas.
तन मन धन सब अर्पण करके जो गुरुदेव रे ब्रह्मानंद भवसागर दुस्तर सो सहजो तर जावे रे.
Dana, mana, dhana, you offer your body, mind and intellect. In other words, you align with that divine will as is presented in the Lord's Prayer. Thy will be done. So constantly when you are not devoted, when you don't have bhakti, you are putting up your will, my will, against thy will. And you are never going to win. So you lead a frustrating life. You are constantly fighting thy will and losing in the end. A bhakta is one who goes with the flow, as they say. Understands that what is best for me is thy will. So there's no resistance. And his body, mind and intellect are all surrendered to the divine will. And as this surrender increases, the bhakta reaches a stage where he is almost one with God. And this again is beautifully presented in a bhajan.
मीरा के प्रभु गिरिधर नागर ताहि के रंग में भीजे मनवा ताहि के रंग में ताहि के रंग में ताहि के रंग में भीजे मनवा राम नाम रस पीजे मनवा राम नाम रस पीजे.
With this constancy of thought towards God, you reach the stage where tahi ke rang mein bhije means my mind gets soaked in your rang. When it's translated in English, it sounds horrendous, but that's what it is. There is this, you reach the state of almost union with God. Now, when you function in the world with this spirit of surrender, this spirit of alignment, whatever you do comes out magnificently, magically perfect. Look into the past. You know, Beethoven, one of the greatest composers of Western music, was deaf. Can you imagine how can a deaf person compose music? And yet he did. Milton wrote some of his best poetry after he went blind. Surdas was born blind, and you read his poetry, every little detail, he was a Krishna bhakta. Every little detail he wrote about Krishna's childhood or whatever it is as if he sees more than you and I do. So this bhakti gives you a magical edge over everyone else. The most important thing is it gets you to realization. But what you need to understand are the key words here are satatam, always. You can't do karma yoga and bhakti yoga once a week or once a year. It has to be once you make this complete shift of attitude, you can't go back to selfishness. Once you align yourself with the divine will, you automatically give precedence. So every time there is a conflict between your will and God's will, that your will dissolves in favor of God's will. And there's no resistance. So, satatam, always. And how? Not half-heartedly. Dridha vrataha, of firm resolve. You don't give up till you reach that end. What we do is, because the starting point itself is shaky, the foundation is shaky. So once you pick up a few ideas, you put them into practice, you reap the benefits of these spiritual principles, and then that resolve to go further goes away. Because all that you want, let's face it, most of us don't want realization. Then what is it that we want? We want freedom for these little challenges, little bits and pieces of sorrow that we have. We want freedom from them. And just a little bit of spirituality is enough to get rid of it. Then you stay put. No further effort is made. But so therefore, right up to the end, you have to make this firm resolve, dridha vrataha, and then nitya yuktaha, ever united. It is this constancy of thought. You know, when you lose a loved one, that yearning for reunion is something you have to experience to understand what it is. That same feeling diverted towards God is nitya yuktaha. So whatever you do, wherever you go, whatever you experience in life, you say, this is worthless without God. This is worthless without Him. There is no enjoyment, there is no fulfillment without that spiritual aspect. And therefore you are ever united, nitya yuktaha. Then he says, namasyanta. Namasyanta is, when do you do namasyanta is a sashtang namaskar. When you are flat out, you know what sashtang namaskar is? Your head and heart is in line with the feet of the Lord. And the Lord stands on the truth, realization, Atman, Brahman. So actually you're paying homage to Atman, Brahman. And when you do that, your ego gets dissolved. You become humble. Once you understand this, the power, the might of Brahman, you understand, and the fact that everything you do is enabled by that divine force, then there's no question of feeling egoistic about anything, because you understand that everything is the Lord's. So if you are awarded, if good things happen to you, you pass on the credit to God. If bad things happen to you, also you pass it on. You don't get affected by it. So this is humility. And the last word he uses is upasate. The intellect is fixed on the ideal and the mind is constantly thinking of that. And the law is, as you think, so you become. So before long you get there. Next word.